Welcome to Real Estate Explained, the podcast that gives you a backstage pass to the ever-evolving world of real estate. I'm your host, Nick Bush, a realtor with over a decade of experience helping clients buy, sell, and invest with confidence. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or just curious about the market, this show is for you. Each week, we'll dive into trending topics, break down the latest real estate news, and bring you expert interviews with the pros so you're prepared for every step of the journey. Ready to turn your real estate goals into reality? Keep watching. He's like, I have no idea where this fire came from.
Was it electrical?
I was like, what do you think stopped it? He was like, God, bro. I think it was electrical. Well, actually, what I found out is I renovated my kitchen. I had the worst contractors ever. The company is called Blackpool. Terrible. They like do stuff in McLean.
Boycott Blackpool.
Yeah, I don't know why they could. And so, what did he say? He said that it was like some
Electrical
wiring or something. They used the wrong thing and they didn't cover it, and they started a fire. And people were, my house was on the market, and people were like, "Hey, bro, there's a fire, and there's the fire." They're like, people were like, "What's up with the fire?" I'm like, "Dude, what fire are you talking about?" I was like, "There's no fire. Like, my house never been on fire." And people were just like, "Okay." And then one agent was like, "No, there was a fire in here."
And of course, you drove up all the way from Fredericksburg to check it out.
And then she sent me the pictures, and they fixed it, and it was now the house is rented out, but
you didn't end up selling it? You ended up putting
no, we didn't. I was selling every house except mine, bro, and it just didn't sell. Russ and I talked about that a lot. I think no HPAP was part of the issue, and it's east of the river, so you need HPAP funds. Like, sometimes a lot of people need HPAP funds, and I think rates like really affect that market a lot. So it didn't sell, and so now we have a tenant in there. And it was actually the plan to keep it. It was my plan to keep it for forever, or for a long period of time. But I think at that time we wanted to sell it. And now we're kind of chilling.
Makes sense.
Yeah, now it makes sense. So welcome to the pod, bro.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for having me over.
Of course, man. Thanks for, I hit you in the DMs. You were like super down.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
I think it was the same day that I was here last week with Bunsen.
Okay.
And I was like,
shooting videos for yourself?
Yeah.
I saw the team
with Javier.
photo shoot day.
Yeah. That was fun.
That was great. So introduce yourself to the people, man.
Awesome. Man, where do I start? Born in Egypt, grew up in Kuwait, live in the U.S. now.
Oh, wow.
So I guess what they call a third culture kid.
Yeah.
It's like you ask me that question, it's like, where's home? And I freeze for a second because I'm like, where was I born, or where did I grow up, or where do I live now? But yeah, man. I'll so team lead, co-team lead of Cornerstone Realty Group. We launched the group in 2022. There's 5 of us now. It all started with my mother. So that's how it all started. Mary McKyle, she launched her real estate career back in 2018. There's a really cool story behind how all that happened. We can maybe dig into that later. But it was never really the plan when we moved here in 2013 from Kuwait to get into that industry. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, long story short, been going at it as a team since 2022. Licensed since 2021, but got into real estate a little bit before that, and I'm happy to share that in a bit. But it's been awesome. It's a lot of work. Leading a team is no joke. One of my friends based out in Toronto, his name is Ibrahim Hussein, just posted a huge viral post about the reality of running a team. And man, that hit hard, and it was a shared struggle that I didn't really realize that it's like, wait, everybody goes through this stuff. So it's been a learning experience, but I guess it's a little bit more of an intro of who I am and what we're up to right now.
And shout out to your team, bro. Everyone on there, like your mom. And it's just when you see like a great family, because obviously your brother's on the team, your mom's on the team. And then I forget her name, but
Marianne.
I know she's like family or family friend.
Man, I remember that listing.
Oh, it was insane, bro. Rami, look, shout out to Rami. He was like, bro, it's gonna work. Just let's don't cancel it.
I remember.
And like you see you guys, and you see like the love and the closeness and the hustle and just like the intelligence, and you guys are just crushing, right? And then I just see your mom, and I'm like, like that culture is created with the parents,
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
And so I'm always just in admiration of you guys, like from a distance. So I appreciate you for coming in here. And so you hinted at it, right? Like how you got into the business. Well, before I ask you that, does the team niche down in anywhere specifically, like buyers, sellers, move up buyers,
So
etc.?
I would say ours isn't more geographical or buyer versus seller. I think thankfully this year we've been focusing more on listings in our marketing and a lot of the campaigns that we've been running. However, I will say our niche is truly the North African Arab community. I'd say that's been the community that we've been able to connect with the most, right?
Okay.
Because I don't like to say that that's all we serve, because it's truly not all we serve. I went to Virginia Tech, so I help a lot of Hokies, friends of mine that are buying their first home. Maybe they're just getting engaged. You know, I like to say there's this very predictable trajectory of like you graduate from like UVA, Virginia Tech, or one of these schools that are a little bit further from the DC area, right? Then you move up here. Arlington's like the place to be, and then then they move out to DC. They're like, I want to go, across the bridge and live in DC and experience that Northwest lifestyle for a bit. And then I feel like right in that gap is usually when I get the phone call of like, we're kind of sick and tired of DC. We want to move out. And I'm like, where's the next place you guys want to go to? Like, we want a townhouse or something, right? And that's kind of where we've been coming in. But I will say the community that we've connected with the most and we do most of our events with and such has been the Arab and North African community in our area here in the DMV area.
Okay, and it's a very diverse area, so there's plenty of folks.
It is, and I will tell you, it's gotten a lot more diverse over the past, I wouldn't even say 10 years, over the past like 6 to 7 years. It's just been this crazy increase in just people coming in and just a lot of diversification, and not just in people moving here, but actually making an impact. Like you see a lot of these cafes, coffee shops, restaurants, where you have like Yemeni coffee shops coming in and Saudi Arabian coffee shops coming in and Lebanese restaurants that people truly enjoy, man. There's a lot of culture that's been being brought into this area for sure. Yeah,
and so let's just stay there for a second then, because obviously that community has been here for a long time. I mean, I grew up in Annandale, so Annandale was like the United Nations. I remember they did a study in high school. Like really, it's. I mean, when someone can't pronounce a name, I'm just like, why can't you just read it, bro? I can tell where someone's from kind of from looking at them. I remember they did a study when I was in high school. I graduated in 2008, and Annandale was 80%. It was like 84% international, and then like the rest was black and white. And I looked at the stats recently, and I think that number is like closer to 90% now. And so, so for me, that community has been around for a long time. I don't think there was, a lot of North Africans at Annandale, North African, Egyptian, Morocco. But we had a lot of Ethiopian, West Africans. And then we had a strong Afghan community also. Strong Afghan and Palestinian community. And so this community's been here for a long time. You guys are servicing them. How have you been able to kind of like impact, like get into that community and become the experts there, impact them, and like what were they missing that you guys provide?
Oh, dude, awesome question. Here's a big thing that I've been talking to a lot of people in our consultations, and it's been one of our biggest missions, Nick, is how can we fill that gap where for the longest time, let me just talk about the Egyptian community. Like go one step deeper, right? Because I can't speak for all the communities. There's a lot of different countries, North African and Middle Eastern countries. But let me talk about the Egyptian community specifically. For the longest time, there's a lot of great Egyptian realtors and just real estate professionals, right? Lenders and such. We believe that we've been able to step in and fill a gap where for the longest time, people had this stigma of, I don't want to work with another Egyptian because they are less than, or the quality of work is less than like this or that person that's grown up here, that's been here their whole life, right? Whether it's a language barrier, whether it's not just even a language barrier, but just understanding the culture and not just the culture, food, drink, all that. No, I mean like the culture of buying and selling homes and being able to be a dominant, being a dominant force in the real estate landscape. So we've stepped in, and here's truly how we've been able to connect to those people is that they've started to realize, wait, Cornerstone Realty Group and the people that are working here aren't like, they can speak our language. They understand our culture, as in the Egyptian culture. But at the same time, when they're out there making calls and negotiating on our behalf, wait a minute, they're speaking the language.
Yeah.
They have the connections. So that's been the biggest thing is like letting people know, hey, I know for the longest time, maybe this or that person that had their license and called themselves a realtor that helped you buy your first home back in 2015. It was an absolute horrifying process, but here's how we're different.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's been kind of we've been kind of swimming upstream a little bit because the stigma is, oh, you guys are from Egypt, you guys are just like any other Arab or this whole thing about Egyptians not being Arabs, but
yeah,
Arabic
I know that
speaking,
thing. When I said that, I was like, I don't know if he feels
Arabic speaking, I should say, realtors. So we've been, trying our best. I should say. I'm not saying we're fully there just yet, but to set a new standard of these Arabic speaking realtors that are able to compete at the highest level.
Okay, that's great. And I mean, you guys, online, your online presence is strong. So
you're
building the brand and the reputation there. And so really, like, you felt like what they were missing is just like an advocate from their culture that they can depend on.
Exactly.
And so how old are you, Kareem? You're
20, what am I now? 27.
27. So you're pretty young. I got into the business at 25, 26. And so you're doing that.
Yeah.
And I know culturally, right? Like, age matters, right?
For sure.
And so how are you able to, first of all, why'd you get into real estate at such a young age? You went to Virginia Tech. I'm sure you didn't go to Tech thinking, I'm going to come out and be a realtor, right?
Wasn't the plan.
And then how have you been able to, why'd you get in and how have you been able to build your business and your reputation as a younger person?
That's an awesome question. I'll give you a quick backstory as to how it all started, because it started way before I got my license. I went to Virginia Tech, and to be honest with you, I moved here from Kuwait when I was halfway through my sophomore year. Ended up going to Robinson, secondary, finished off my junior and senior year over there. And I'll tell you, for the longest time, I remember this, hopefully my parents watch this, but I really fought my parents on going to Virginia Tech for my first year, because I didn't know much, but I knew that I wanted to do something big. But they were like, hey, why don't you stay close? It's a very cultural thing, right? Yeah. Stay close, go to George Mason or go to Nova or do something, stay close to home. We just moved to the country. What do you mean you're going to go live 3.5 hours away from us for 4 years? Like, that wasn't something which I completely understand my parents now. They just didn't get it, right? We're not from here. Yeah. At that time, right, we were extremely new. So I went to Virginia Tech and I did a dual degree in economics and tech management. So it's like, when people ask me, they're like, real estate? Yeah. Why'd you get into real estate? So I graduated Virginia Tech, and I'll tell you, during my summers, and you might know this or know this company, but during my summers and during last 2 years of high school and then all throughout college, I used to do door knocking for Dream Home. I'm not sure if you know Dream Home Remodeling.
I don't think so.
A bunch of high school folks around here used to go work for them. Nish, a good friend of mine, he's one of the owners, and they pulled me in, and that's where my love for sales came in. Yeah. I was this young 17-year-old, 18-year-old knocking on doors. Yeah. And setting up appointments that 28, 29-year-olds were not doing. Okay. So I remember after a couple summers doing that, I came in. And I was like, you know what? I want to take it to the next level. And I remember I went and sat down in Nish's office, and I was like, Nish, I want to take it to the next level. I don't want to knock doors anymore. I want to be the one selling the exterior remodeling products. They sell roofs, windows, all that stuff, right? He looked at me. I was 18 at the time, or 19 or something. It was my freshman year's summer. Yeah. He looks at me. He was like, you know what, Kareem? He's like, the youngest guy that's doing sales with us is 36, 35. He's like, but that beard makes you look like you're 28. So he's like, you know what? I've had a beard for a bit. He's like, if you're up for it, let's do it. And I'll tell you, that was a big game changer for me, because I got in. I started doing that during the summers. I got an internship my junior year at Capital One. So where, fast forward, I ended up working there the first 2.5 years out of college, or 3 years, sorry, out of college. But I interned with them at their headquarters in Tyson's. So that's where my tech management side really kicked in. I did product management and tech management. It was awesome. Corporate, everything was so great, man. Like, think about the bells and whistles that you see when it comes to working in the corporate world.
Killing it.
The traveling, the beautiful office. I absolutely love everyone that I worked with over there. But I always had this itch, and I'm like, is this what I really want to do long term?
Yeah.
And I know it's kind of a longer story, but this is where it gets me to COVID hits. And I was supposed to go back to Capital One right after my senior year, because right after my internship, they gave me a return offer. So going into my senior year, I already had a full-time job lined up with them.
Which is why you go to Virginia Tech.
And it was awesome, man. Yeah, it was an awesome company, awesome offer. COVID hits. We were at Key West for spring break, and we got the news. So I'm the type of person, I can't just sit still for too long. And they were like, yep, classes are canceled for the rest of the year. Don't come back to campus.
Yeah.
So I remember very well that we got the news on Saturday. On Tuesday, I call up. Who did I call up? I called the Dream Home Remodeling, Niche, and I go like, Niche, I know the world's ending, but I'm going to come back to Nova. I'm going to pack up my stuff and come back. Can I work for you guys again? He's like, listen, it's commission. Do you want to? I don't know if he's like, I don't know if we're going to sell a single roof or a single window.
Yeah.
Come back and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Went back, man. And I don't know if you remember, but in 2020, the home remodeling industry boomed.
Boomed, yeah.
And if you think of why, because people were home and they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize my roof was that nasty.
They had to make it more comfortable inside their homes.
Exactly. Yeah. They're like, wait a minute, the second level is hot, So it boomed. So I did that from March all the way through July when Capital One was about to start. Mm-hmm. That's where it gets me into real estate, because I remember very well, July rolls around, I'm getting into Capital One, made all this extra money that I wasn't expecting to make. And then I think about it, I'm like, what does a typical college senior do after they graduate? I'm like, they go to Europe. What do they go to Asia? They travel. I'm like, I can't do that. The world's ending. I don't need a new car. My car works just fine, has 4 wheels, and it drives me wherever I need to drive it. And I'm like, I remember my mom's in the industry, and I see her like selling stuff left and right. And I ask her, I'm like, Mom, what's the minimum that I need to buy a home? And she goes like, 3% down. Some closing costs and this and that. So I do the math, and I'm like, that's like $27,000 at a $500,000 price point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can swing that. And remember very well, like, I started my job on July 14th at Capital One, and by August 14th, I closed on my first home.
Boom.
In Springfield.
Yeah.
Now, to me, I remember looking back. What was I, 22 at the point? I was like, whoa, what did I just do? But I'll tell you now, Nick, like I look back, it's been the best. And I'm not just saying like personal experience, the best financial decision I've made to date.
Because the house is appreciated, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It appreciated. I learned how to house hack. I learned how to be a landlord at a young age.
Yeah.
It allowed me to buy many investment properties after that, just because I got that muscle flexed at the age of 22.
That's good, bro.
Right? So that's how I got in. It wasn't as a realtor.
It was as an investor, really.
It was just a homeowner / investor, right?
Yeah.
The whole house hacking thing. And from there, man, just the itch of wanting to get back into sales is what made me get my license in 2021.
Yeah.
Start the team in 2022, and then go in full time at 2023.
And so how many homes do you own now?
I have 4 individually.
Okay.
1 with a partner. That's a duplex that my partner and I own. So that's 5. And we currently own a flip that we're working on right now.
Okay.
But that's not an
You'll
investment.
sell
We're going to be selling that pretty soon.
And are these all local DMV homes?
No, they're not actually. That's something we can also chat about if you'd like. How do I say this? I'm a big believer that it's to start off as an investor, it's very hard to penetrate the Northern Virginia market.
Yeah, because
DC is a lot easier. Yeah. Unless you're living in the property. Mm-hmm. Do I think it's an awesome idea to house hack real estate here? Absolutely. Yes. But if you're going to tell me to buy an investment property and put down 20%, but the starting price point is $550, $600, I don't think everybody's got 6 figures in the bank just sitting and ready to be deployed into a property.
Exactly.
So I bought properties. The first 2 investment properties I bought were in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Okay.
I bought in Chesapeake, and one of the flips was in Richmond, and then and then I just bought another one in Lynchburg actually in January.
So are you targeting the college rental market?
You know what's funny? That was the initial thought, but weirdly enough, even though all my properties are within like a 4-minute drive from Liberty University, all of them are rented out to families or professionals. But I do get the mix of both families and students that reach out to me. But you know, for some reason, the ones that have clicked with me have been families in the Lynchburg area.
Okay.
The one in Chesapeake, actually, it's a duplex, so half of it is rented out to students because there's several universities around there, around the Norfolk area.
Yeah.
And then the other half is just another family.
Okay,
So.
that's dope. And when I reached out, I was like, "Hey, what do you want to talk about?"
Yeah.
I could tell that you were passionate about how, you know, real estate and taxes fit together and how you can save money via taxes and really gain leverage that way.
Absolutely.
So what are you, you know, what's your mindset around that?
Okay, there's two different conversations to be had here, and I think one conversation, which I know a lot of realtors and real estate professionals watch this or this podcast, and I know you have a huge network in this area, Nick. A lot of people know who you are, and and you know a lot of friends, and I think that's been a big thing for me. Is just like diving deeper into this community, and that's how we got to know each other.
Yeah.
Right? But there's that side, which I think if you're a real estate professional and you understand the advantages that you have as a real estate professional when it comes to owning real estate, it's mind-blowing. Like mind-blowing. Because I think one of the biggest things that real estate agents that, you know, do well and sell, they come at the end of the year, they sit down with their accountant, they're like, how much do I have to pay in taxes? They're like, I have to cut a $60,000 check to the IRS. I wasn't planning on that, right? Unless you have, of course, you have a really, really good CPA that you work with, solid bookkeeper and such. A lot of them also, I want to be very clear, like you might have the best CPA out there, right? But if they haven't dealt with real estate investors specifically, man, there's a lot of money being left on the table. And I think one of the biggest things that I've personally taken a lot of time to study is to understand all the advantages that I get as a real estate professional. Okay. The IRS has a definition to that, by the way. You can't just have people think, oh, I have my real estate license, so I'm a real estate professional. Yeah. I just want to be very clear. Like, if you have your real estate license on the side, but you have a job, a full-time job that's like where the majority of your income is coming from, but you're selling 1 or 2 homes, you don't qualify as a real estate professional. You have to prove to the IRS, hey, I'm putting at least 750 hours into this. This is something that I'm doing day in and day out. But man, I'll tell you, I'm working on my taxes right now, actually, and it's gotten more and more complicated every year. Yeah. Because of what I'm about to share, and it's just learning about cost segregation. Okay. And learning about bonus depreciation and how those two things work together as a real estate professional and a non-real estate professional. And that what it pretty much entails is that when you buy a piece of real estate, automatically your property depreciates over 27 and a half years. It's called a straight line depreciation, right? And of course, not advice, and I definitely cannot harp on this as well as a CPA could or a real estate tax consultant could, but I'll just give you how I understand and how it's applied to me, and of course, talk to whoever you need to talk to explain it a little bit better than I will. But if you really think about it, you have the option, which is such a hack. Tell the government, I don't want to wait 27 and a half years to depreciate my property. I want to depreciate it today. Yeah. Like all of it today. So instead of 27 and a half years where you take like the value of the home, right? The tax assessed value of the home, subtract land because you can't depreciate land, right? Then that's divided over 47 and a half years. Well, what the IRS allows you to do through a cost segregation study is you bring out some engineers. They go ahead and there's different levels as to how you can depreciate different parts of your property. Mm-hmm. And then they go like, hey, instead of depreciating your home and giving you maybe like a $5,000 depreciation on your Schedule E every year, well, we can depreciate all the property today, and we could depreciate $150,000.
Crazy, right?
$160,000, $200,000. Well, then it's like, wait a minute. You do that, and if you're a real estate professional, what you're allowed to do then is use that to offset your active income. That's what differentiation comes in. That's why I said there's two different conversations. Well, if I could do that and I could go and sell a lot of real estate, but also I'm encouraged to go buy real estate that I'm going to depreciate to offset my day-to-day income, it's like, wait a minute. I'm actually deferring, right? The right word is deferring.
Yeah.
Ton of taxes.
Yeah.
And the big secret here, people go like, well, Kareem, there's something called depreciation recapture, right? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it comes time to sell the house, you're going to have to pay the depreciation back. But if you're thinking like an investor, you're like, my plan is to roll that property into another property through 1031s. You're just deferring your taxes and kicking the can down the road.
So
right?
So we own our house in D.C., we bought for $490 in 2021.
Yeah.
So the balance is somewhere in the low to mid fours now.
Mm-hmm.
It's appreciated to $625. Mm-hmm. That's what the market says. Mm-hmm. Now the market didn't react to that sales price, but we reduced the sales price and it didn't react to that either. So I just think it's not the right time to sell. We have a tenant in there, and so we have around $100K more or less net cash flow, right? And I look at my wife all the time, and she would rather get out of it. She's like, let's just sell it. Like I don't like this house anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I only want to sell if we 1031 exchange.
Yes.
I'm like, we don't need, and there's privilege, right? I'm like, we don't need the $100,000. What are we gonna do? We're gonna put it in the bank account. We're gonna blow it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to buy the next property.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? Let's just shift it to another investment property, so we're not paying any taxes, and then we can buy something bigger.
Yeah.
And so the 1031 exchange is so powerful.
It is. It is, man. But I will say, I mean, in your case, you just lived there, right? Less than 2 years ago?
Yeah, so we won't have to pay capital gains taxes anyway. So we have like a 4-year window to do that, which is a positive because the home is only going to appreciate over the next 4 years. So we might end up walking away with more cash. So break down, since we're talking about it now, break down capital gains taxes and your thought process around, like tell the people what they are and how you can benefit, what the negative, the positive.
Sure, I think just to clarify also, when I mentioned that you just lived there, what I was referring to is that, when it comes to buying anything, like a stock, crypto, and real estate, whenever you do sell that asset off, right, any gains that you make, there's capital gains that you have to pay, which is pretty much I'm trying to find the right word. It's the government's way of making sure that they're taxing you correctly on the gains that you've made on whatever asset that you've sold. In that case, with real estate, and in your case, right, what the government pretty much says is that, hey, listen, you have it's a 2 and 5 rule, right? That's kind of the short version of explaining it. But pretty much saying, hey, listen, you have any 5 years, when it comes time to sell the home, if you've lived for 2 years out of any of the last 5 years, then if you're married, you have up to $500,000 in capital gains that you do not, like if you've made like $200,000 profit, well, you're not paying any capital gains up to $500,000. And then if you're single, it's up to $250,000, right? Now, there's been a lot of talk about this, by the way, because I read something that said that those numbers were set back in like the 90s or the 80s or whatever it is. And people are arguing and saying, that needs to change, man. That $500,000, I know it's like a big number, but people are saying are sitting on a lot more equity than that right now.
Especially after the impact of COVID.
Exactly. So the problem is I've sat in listing consultations. People are discouraged to sell their home once they realize how much capital gains tax they have to pay. They're like, heck no, I'm not going to do that, right? Yeah. So what's their other option is 1031, but then they're intimidated by 1031. They're like, what do you mean I have 45 days to find this or 60 days to find the property and then put it under, all the numbers and the, 1031.
The moving parts kind of intimidate the average person. So I'll say it over again. I'll say the 1031 often intimidates the average person.
It does. So there's been a lot of talks about like, we need to revisit those numbers, because think about what that'll do to our market, right? We're seeing such a lack of supply over the past 5 years now.
Yeah.
But what if you told people, hey, listen, the capital gains break goes up from 500,000 to $1 million? How many more people will be like, listen, I'm willing to sell my house now if it's going to save me $1 million? If I'm not going to have to pay capital gains on $1 million, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
$500,000 is just not going to do it, because depending on your income, you could be paying up to 20%. So if you made $600,000 in capital gains tax, well, the first 500 is
You're good.
forgiven, or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, but or like they look past that. But then just for the first $100,000 that you're going to make on top of that, you're paying $20,000 to the government, right? So that's been a big thing. And again, if you have that investor mindset and you're willing to 1031 things, great. But if you're not, people are thinking twice before selling their homes and nowadays.
So how are you thinking about your portfolio? Are you buy and hold investor? Or are you going to eventually 1031 up to bigger properties?
Yeah.
What's your mindset?
No, that's a great question.
Your strategy, I should say.
Right now, my plan is to hold on to the properties. I'm a big believer in the Lynchburg area. I think there's been a lot of growth in that area lately, and the university is expanding. There's 2 universities there. There's there's 2 hospitals as well. There's 3 and 1 college and 2 other universities. So that area is just expanding, right? So I don't plan on selling those properties anytime soon. However, I'm also I'm a big believer of pivoting when you do see new opportunities. Mm-hmm. So could I potentially 1031 those in the next 5 years, 10 years? Maybe. But I definitely don't plan on just pulling the plug and being like, I got to use this money now. Because I will say this, Nick, and sorry to, I'll touch on one other thing, because people tell me, I get this question a lot. Well, Kareem, when am I ever going to reap the benefits of all these investments, right? And I think that's when people really need to understand the idea of, I think it's one of our other topics, which is leveraging debt.
Yeah.
And how banks are willing to lend quite a bit of money based on, hey, what equity do you have? So they'll lend you, so they'll give you debt or they'll lend you money, and the collateral is equity.
Exactly.
It's like, here's my portfolio of whatever $1 million, however however an investor grew their portfolio to, and now they're borrowing money against it. Or people don't realize this, you do have an option, by the way, to pull HELOCs on your investments. You just have to make sure that they're on your taxes for a certain number of years. And lenders can speak on that better than I can, right? I'm not sure about all the details around that. But people don't understand that, is that you park your money in an asset like a piece of real estate. That doesn't mean that it has to sit there for the rest of your life. You just have to wait until you sell it to, and you can reap the benefits.
Yeah. Or 30 years until it's cash flowing completely.
Yeah. I mean, you can borrow money against it. You can roll that into something else. You can, remodel. You can borrow money against it and remodel that property to increase your rents. There's just so many ways as to how real estate investors are actually reaping the benefits of their property on a daily basis, not when they just sell their property. So,
that's interesting, and I actually have this, it's kind of a dialogue, I'll call it, because the tax code is obviously, the tax code is written for everyone in America, but the rich and wealthy take advantage of it. And my argument is that, sure, the rich and wealthy take advantage of it, but they have to become extraordinary to be able to take advantage of it.
Yes.
But I mean, you bought 4 houses, starting at 22. Bronson's 24, and I just told him before we started the podcast, I said, Bronson, you need to be buying a house every year, dude. To build wealth, and you'll be a millionaire in a few years. Just off of how many properties you own, what the value of those homes are. But I think it's interesting because people take for granted the leverage that you can create from putting 3% down.
Oh yeah.
2 or 3 times.
Dude. Dude.
And it's almost like you're encouraged in America to go into debt. And so when you look at that, are you more of a cash flow focused investor, or are you a buy and hold, value investor?
Yeah, good question. Look, I think it's hard as I just mentioned. I'd have two different conversations depending on what the person's end goal is. If the person is local and is going to be working in, I don't know, in DC, in Tyson's, whatever it is, and they're going to be putting 3% down in their home, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have to live there. And if you're not house hacking and renting out the other rooms or the basement or whatever it is, you're probably not going to be cash flowing much here. So, but if, let's say, for example, somewhere like Lynchburg, Southwest Virginia, Southeast Virginia, those markets have a lower barrier to entry.
Exactly, yeah.
Price points can vary anywhere from like 150 to 350. So the 20% doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah.
Right? Now, at the same time, the rent to sales price ratio over there is definitely a lot better. Like, I'll give you just an example. Like, a property that you buy down there for example, I actually just helped one of my partners purchase a duplex at the beginning of the year, new construction, for $350, and each unit's renting for like $1650, something like that, solid. Right? So it almost touches that 1% rule that you might see on bigger pockets and such. You go tell an investor here in the Northern Virginia area, hey, how's the 1% rule looking for you? They're going to look like you're crazy, like, what are you talking? Right?
Is it an 8% cap rate? Yeah. Like, no, it doesn't work like that here. Yeah.
So it depends. And that's why I say, look, so that might sound like I'm telling people do not invest in Northern Virginia. Actually, that's completely wrong because I believe in Northern Virginia, you see appreciation like you don't see it anywhere else. Yeah. And it's not just the appreciation, not the rate of appreciation, but the stability of appreciation. Like, if you think about it, Nick, one of the biggest things I've been telling people that are, I've had like at least 20 calls over the past, since April 2nd when the stock market, thank God today, we're ticking back up again. But I've had so many calls with just a lot of fear calls is what I want to call them, right? And I've told people, they're like, I don't know, this area might tank, this, and that. I tell them, all right, I've actually had this training with my team this morning, right? We pulled up charts of housing prices, the stock market, mortgage rates over the past 10 years, right? Studied all of it. If you look at the Northern Virginia market, when COVID hit, anywhere like New York City, Los Angeles, parts of Chicago, like those are areas that people are there and they're living there because they want to live there. Yeah. This might sound kind of weird, but I don't think being in the DC, Northern Virginia area is anyone's like first choice. Like, they're like, if you could ask me to live anywhere in the US, I'm going to live in Virginia, right? Yeah. That's not everyone's first choice. It almost feels, and I know that this is not true because I truly love this area, but it almost feels like everybody's here because they have to be here. What I mean by that is either work, because we have one of the top job markets in the country here, or schools. Yeah. Right? So don't compare me or this area to like Iowa. And Iowa's like, prices are down in this area. I'm looking, we send out newsletters month over month with month over month data. And I'm like, where have prices gone down in this area? Do we see slight dips, right, that are cyclical? Are you going to compare January to like last July?
Well, and people are making more. The income is higher here. People are making, you can get to 120, 150 here easily. I was in a house with some clients, and they're looking at 1.3, 1.5 is kind of where they are. I've helped these clients buy 7 houses. This is number 7. Yeah. And we were in $1 million house. It was like 1.1. They were just like, let's see 1.1. This house, we like it, think it's cool. And we were sitting in there and we were like, man, it feels like a starter home. Right? You know? Yes. $1.1 million starter home. And if you tell someone that in North Carolina, they're going to be like, what are you talking about? I can get 90 acres down here, right? I know. And so I think that you're right. It's interesting because people do want to live in New York. They're like, I'm going to live in a 300 square foot house for a few years and vibe out in New York. Chicago's the New York of the Midwest. And then who doesn't want to live in California? So I feel.
But what happened during COVID? Those places were ghost towns.
Ghost towns.
Why?
Because the vibes were gone.
Exactly. And again, there was no reason for them to be there anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the big reasons why I'm such a huge advocate of this area, because it's you're making money on the back end. Yeah. You're making money when it comes to equity in this area, but I don't want you to come in here and expect you're making cash flow.
And the job market is strong.
Right? So yeah.
Schools are strong.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're still finding places to, Winchester, Western Prince William County is blowing up. I feel like I can talk to Kareem for 2 hours, but let's, to avoid that, I have this like true or false segment, right? And so I'm going to ask you just 3 questions. I'm going to ask you, and then just elaborate on each individual one. Time in the market is key to selling your home at the best price.
Timing the market.
Yeah. Is time in the market key to selling your home for the best price?
I do believe yes. True.
Okay. That's true.
Yeah. I think that's true.
Okay. So in this area, what do you think the best time is?
So I would say that, I always say this, our spring market here starts mid-January and it goes on a run all the way until